Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for your patience. So yes, once again, I had to take my daughter to the doctor this morning. Surprise issue, but I got her medication and all is well. Thank you all for being so flexible and patient. So I'm going to get started with exactly what I wanted to show you today. So here's our Google Classroom page. As I record, I'm going to add the closed captions right here so you can read. Here we go, adding captions. So you can see the captions on the screen as I speak. Okay, there we go. So you should be able to see the closed captions as I am speaking. Here is our Google Classroom page. The most recent assignment I've posted is the synonym exercise, which I'll go over in a moment right here. And I did something new is I posted something else on the stream. We'll go over the synonym exercise first, go over that vocabulary that I mentioned in class yesterday. And you'll notice right here, I mentioned something in the stream. That's the exciting thing. I can't wait to show you, which you should be able to enjoy. All right. So here we go. We're going to start right here with the synonym exercise right here, and I'll ask for a volunteer reader. All right. Here we go. Anyone want to volunteer to read the instructions for this assignment? One of you already turned it in. Gustavo, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah.
Okay.
After reading the text on page 35, complete the synonyms per side on page 38 and 39. Attach a photo of your work when you are finished.
Very good, very good. So this is very similar to something we've done before, although it might take, you could attach it in one single photo, but I'd recommend, if you watch right here what I'm doing, I'd recommend turning your phone horizontally to get both of the pages, or you could do, if you want to take the picture vertically like this, you could take 2 pages and attach both. That's fine. So I've already attached 2 images of the textbook right here. Yesterday, we went over these quotes. We wrapped up class discussing these Theodore Roosevelt quotes from the early 20th century. And this is when the role of government, like I was talking about in class, the role of government was beginning to change and starting to take on a stronger role in the personal lives of Americans. So examples I've talked about in class, when you buy food at the grocery store, you'll see labels like USDA. I'll write them down. So labels like USDA and FDA. So United States Department of Agriculture. When you pour milk on your cereal, the government's involved. Food and Drug Administration. I just got my daughter some eye drops at the doctor. Those eye drops have to be approved by the government, the FDA. So the Food and Drug Administration. Another example, when you drive a car on the right side of the windshield, there has to be an inspection sticker. So this period of time is when government started playing a more interpersonal role in the lives of Americans, for better or for worse. And here's the vocabulary I wanted to mention right here. Vocabulary that's not in the textbook from this, the word progressive era is from the textbook, but vocabulary that will serve you well is, well, I'm gonna write on the upper right-hand side, consumer advocacy. Consumer advocacy. So that's self-explanatory. This is a period of time when government began to play a role in consumer advocacy, advocating for consumers. So we as citizens were consumers in the free market. A laissez-faire approach to government means that government takes a hands-off approach in how we spend our money, how we make our choices. A more interpersonal approach began with this period of the progressive era, a little over 100 years ago. So that's what we're looking at. Let's take a moment to read this passage on the right-hand side. Who can volunteer to read the first paragraph? I'll circle it. Gustavo, would you like to appoint a new reader?
I will do it.
Okay, that was Kalo, right?
Okay.
Go for it, Kalo. So just what I circled right here. Progressivism.
Progressivism was an international movement in the early 20th century. Cities throughout the world experienced similar social trends arising from rapid industrialization and urban growth. In 1850, Paris and London were the only cities whose population exceeded 1 million by 90. Whoa. There were 12 New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia in the United States. Another in Europe, Latin America, and Asia facing similar social problems. Reforms across the globe and change ID and envisions new social policies. Sun Yat-sen, the Chinese leader, was influenced by the writings of Henry George and Edward Bernays. The mayor of Osaka, Japan, called for a new social economy that replaced competition with cooperation.
All right. Very good, very good. So there's an interesting phrase here, rapid industrialization. So very often when we use words like developed or developing, these phrases, these words and phrases like developing country, a developed country, very often they're synonymous with industrialization. So if a country is going through a period of building roads, building factories, building large infrastructure that has previously not been there before, that's called rapid industrialization. And this period right here, we're seeing industrialization of mostly Western countries and largely some Asian and Latin American countries. So that's what that means. So if you think of the phrase rapid industrialization, that's usually synonymous with fast development. It's almost about the same thing. Although development is a little bit vague, ambiguous, usually in history texts, development and industrialization are synonymous. Good job, Kalo. Kalo, look at all these brilliant people in class today. Who would you like to read paragraph 2?
Khalid.
Kaylin, okay, go for it.
Oh, me?
I think there's only one Kaylin.
Okay. As the government and the Britain, French, and Germany instituted old age pensions, minimum wage allows unemployment insurance and the regulation of the workplace safety. American reformers came to believe they had a lot to learn from the old world. The term social legislation meaning governmental action to address urban problems and the insecurities of the working class. Last originated in the Germany but soon entered the political vocabulary of the United States. Continue part 3.
I actually stop right there. Very good, Kayleen. I think I should probably explain a few of these phrases. So American reformers came to believe they had a lot to learn from the old world. The term social legislation. In this case, old world is referring to Europe. So in terms of Western countries, the New World is generally the Americas, and the Old World is considered Europe. So I call that's kind of a colloquial phrase that you might want to be familiar with. So if you're not from a Western country, this whole concept of Old World, New World might be strange. So generally in the Americas, that's including Latin America, North and South America, Canada, all the way down to Chile. New World is considered post-Enlightenment development of Europeans settling the Americas. Old World is across the Atlantic. So that's a phrase that it pinpoints one geographic location. Yes. So does everybody know what the word working class or the phrase working class means? Working class life.
Working class life.
So I'll give you phrases: lower class, working class, middle class, upper class, wealthy. These are phrases that are talking about social status in terms of money. So class, and this is a good time to point out working class because it's tax season. It's April, so everybody who's just scrambling to finish their taxes right now, you know exactly where you are. If you are working class, if you are middle class, it's where you can see right there where you fall in the tax bracket. So working class, it's generally people who are usually of the trades, skilled workers, but not, or remember the phrase blue collar and white collar? I think I went over this before. Blue collar, a blue collar is considered somebody like a mechanic, a factory worker. A white collar worker would be like a lawyer or a doctor. Blue collar, collar. So a working class is synonymous with blue collar. I'll actually write that down because that's good. A good way to kind of understand the American phrases for social class. Blue collar, as in literal collar. Like I just happen to be wearing a blue shirt today. It doesn't have a collar on it.
Mechanics, control, builder.
Yeah, exactly. A chef might be a blue collar worker. Somebody who's standing in the kitchen all day. Is hard, usually like, I'll give you another phrase. Everybody hold up your hands. Do you have calluses on your hands? Does anybody have calluses on their hands? So
anybody do hard work in the class?
right. So does everybody understand? So like if your hands are rough from hard physical work every day, that's kind of a calloused hand is like a blue collar worker. If you're doing like tough physical work like construction all day, that kind of thing, it's considered
hard worker.
Exactly. So the way we rank positions in society, like someone who has calluses on their hands, blue collar worker, blisters on your feet, same thing. So you're waiting tables, you're standing on your feet 12 hours a day. You have blisters on the bottom of your feet, calluses on your hands, blue collar worker, working class. And I think we mentioned the word labor union before in the last reading. So those phrases are very related. So working class life right here in this phrases in this paragraph. Okay. Government action to address the urban problems and the insecurities of working class life. So that means And here on the left-hand side, you have a picture of a strike by people working in a coal mine in Pennsylvania. So this is an example of civil unrest, collective bargaining, a labor union choosing to go on strike, and miners, people working in the mines would be working class. A farmer would be working class, but this is urban, so we're talking more like factory workers, plumbers, construction workers, that sort of thing. Two more paragraphs. Kayleen, I've talked enough. Kayleen, who would you like to read? Oh, wait, you're muted, Kayleen. Who did you choose?
Sorry. Okay, Raphael, can you wait for us, please?
Raphael, you have been chosen. It's paragraph 3. Progressives believe.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Kaylin. Thank you. Progressives believe that the modern era required a fundamental rethinking of the function of political authority, whether the aim was to combat the power of the giant corporation, protect consumers, civilize the marketplace, or guarantee industrial freedom at the workplace. Progressives sought to reinvigorate the idea of an activist sociality conscious government. Even in South Carolina, with its strong tradition of belief in local autonomy, Governor Richard Manning urged his
Constituents, that was a tough one. Yeah.
constituents to modify their view of government as a threat to individual liberty, to see it instead as a means for solving the ills of the body politic.
Very good, very good. So this is that shift in thinking that was happening during the progressive era. So remember yesterday when I was asking questions, how much involvement do you want government to be in your personal life? Do you want government involved in education or government to stay away from education? Do you want government to be involved with consumer advocacy, making rules for things we buy and sell, that sort of thing? So this is an example of people in South Carolina changing their views. So it says right here, progressives sought to reinvigorate the idea of an activist, socially conscious government, even though South Carolina, with its strong tradition of belief in local autonomy. So I'm going to underline that one. That might be a brand new word, local autonomy. If something is autonomous, is it moving independently or being controlled by someone else? Autonomy.
It's independent.
Exactly. Very good, Gustavo. So the word autonomy, I mean, even in the founding of this country, does anybody know what the United States comes from? The phrase United States?
State unit.
Exactly. I mean, other countries don't even use the word state. They call provinces, like this province, this province, this province, and then you have your nation state. Here we have multiple states within one country, and even then we have territories like Guam and Puerto Rico. Our country was founded on argument, basically. Once the American Revolution was over and were recognized in 1783 as a brand new nation, multiple parts of the country wanted to operate differently. It was really hard to have one constitution because people in Massachusetts wanted to do things very differently than people in Virginia, who wanted to do things differently than people in Maryland, and wanted to do things differently than people in New York. So each former colony became its own individual state where local people could elect their own state representatives. So that's why even today we characterize parts of the country as a liberal state, a conservative state, this kind of state, or that kind of state. And we identify ourselves. It's a very, I'll use the word tribal. Even, we've been around for 140 plus years, 240 plus years. People identify the way they think and the way they act by the state that they're from, and the way they vote. But here we have South Carolina changing its view of government. South Carolina traditionally wanted more autonomy. We don't want big government here. We want local autonomy. We don't want people in Washington, D.C., the federal government, telling us what to do. We want local autonomy. But then that started to change with the progressive era. So right here you see even South Carolina, with its strong tradition of belief in local autonomy, and this particular leader urged his constituents to modify their view of government as a threat to individual liberty and see it instead as a means for solving the ills of the body politic. So traditionally, South Carolina saw government as a problem. Keep government away. Stay away from my personal life. Don't tell me what to do. Don't make me pay taxes. Get away from me. That was the traditional viewpoint of government in South Carolina. But right about here, people in South Carolina said, no, 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 we want more government. We want more rules. We want more regulation. South Carolina had a big problem with child labor. There were 8-year-old kids working in factories and losing their fingers on machines, and government was nowhere. So people in South Carolina were saying, we need help. Bring in the federal government. Make rules. We need authority. So this was a moment where people across America were changing their ideas, saying, we want more government, not less government. And that's one thing that characterizes the progressive era at this time. Last paragraph to read, paragraph 4. Who wants to read it? Caesar, you want to give it a shot?
Gerard,
Yeah, I'm here.
Gerard.
No, I'm here.
Okay, go for it,
Please.
Caesar. Let's hear from the big man. Progressives could reject.
Okay, right now.
Mhm.
Progressive could reject the traditional assumption that powerful government posed a threat of freedom because their understanding of freedom was itself in flux. Effective freedom, wrote the philosopher John Dewey, was far different from the highly formal and limited concept of liberty as protection from outside restraint. Freedom was a positive, not a negative concept. The power to do specific things, freedom, wrote Dewey's brilliant young admirer, the writer Randolph Burney, means a democratic corporation in determining the ideals and propose an industrial and social institution of a country.
So that's interesting.
Congratulations, Cesar. You improve your learning. Your
Oh, Caesar's getting
reading.
better and better every day.
Yeah.
You all
Thank
are.
you. Thank you, my partner.
So
I'm trying to do the best.
that's right. Ipoka. Here we go. Freedom, wrote Dewey's brilliant young admirer, the writer Randolph Byrne, means a democratic cooperation in determining ideals and purposes and industrial social institutions of a country. So that's the idea of Americans at this time were changing their interpretation of freedom. One interpretation, has anybody ever driven up to New Hampshire? If the license plate in New Hampshire says live free or die.
Ah, yes, I was trying.
So that's usually a way to contrast America versus, Massachusetts versus New Hampshire. Massachusetts usually has a higher.
The spirit of America.
Yeah, the spirit.
Well, like the way people in Massachusetts usually vote is that a little more in favor of local government, more government control. And that means usually more taxes, more government oversight on various things. And people in New Hampshire usually take what's called like a libertarian view or a more conservative view, saying, you know what, keep government away from me, leave me alone. I live in the woods. I don't want anybody to bother me.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of two contrasting ideas of two states side by side that usually think and vote a little bit differently, even though we're neighbors. So in this case, Americans overall across the country were changing their feelings about government. So the whole idea of personal freedom, personal liberty didn't mean less government. It meant, wait a minute, maybe we can have more government and government can somehow do better for us together. That idea.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Teacher, how can we explain that in United States, the same state, United States, some place don't pay taxes? For example, New Hampshire.
Oh no, they pay
You,
taxes. They just
yeah,
pay fewer.
I know. But if you
Yeah.
if you go to buy something, they I don't know how, I don't know what's happened in New Hampshire. If I get some products, I don't pay for tax.
Oh, that's called a no sales tax. That's called no sales tax. And
Exactly.
very often, many cities will have like events just to bring in more tourists to come shop. So even like in New York, they might have like 1 day or 1 week or something where they say, come to our city and spend your money. We're going to say no sales tax at this day at this time. But a word that I'm going to help you use to explain, do you see on the upper right-hand side, I said legislation,
Mm-hmm.
different legislation. So each state has different legislators. So if you reside in one state and you're a citizen, you can appoint someone to the House of Representatives. You can have a governor, a senator, and so forth. And the way, and even locally, you can vote for your district. You can vote for the mayor of your city. And that's all considered legislation. So even though we're one country, the United States, people vote differently. And that's local legislation. The federal,
So
that's the president, the big everything. Yeah, Caesar.
so if somebody moved to New Hampshire, need to figure out what's happening with the legislation.
Well, I'd argue anyone who moves anywhere should figure out what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not
But
the same in my country.
well, of course, but it depends. America is a very politicized country. People are very, very involved. Some
Yeah.
parts of the world, it's dangerous to get involved with politics. It's scary. People do not have free and open access
Yep.
to vote. In other parts of the world, people have no interest. And I'll give you a word for what that is. It's called apolitical. Apolitical is a culture where people just don't care. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what the government's doing. Leave me alone. Don't ask me to talk about this. That's kind of an apolitical culture. America's kind of the opposite. We're like a hyper political culture. I argue we're a little too politicized. It's even really hard to make friends with different Americans who think and vote differently than you are. So we have the opposite problem of an apolitical culture. We're too politicized, and you'll notice it in the next 6 months as the next general election comes up. It gets really nasty. Very hard to just have normal conversations with people. American families are divided. My own family has very conservative and very liberal people, and they don't talk to each other. They go years without speaking. It's pretty sad. That's kind of American life.
It's weird.
Yeah, true. Anyway, okay. All right, my daughter is just okay. This is looks like her medication has worked. Okay, yes, you can have a snack. All right, there we go. All right, there we go. So moving along. Yes. So that's it. I'm going to show you the next.
Sorry. I don't want to disturb in the class, but you're looking good with your daughter.
Oh, Oh,
Amazing.
oh, she's way better looking than me. Hey, my kids are so much better looking than I am. I'm all right. They're stars. Okay, here we go. You've got a very attractive family too, Caesar. I've met a lot of your nieces and nephews.
Mhm.
You have a stunning family. Two of which are already. One is already a student at Bunker Hill, and the other's about to be a student, and we got to get you there too. Anyway, we all have attractive families here. Anyway, the El Centro family is smoking hot. Okay, so anyway, all right, let's. I'm going to show you this. We're not going to go over all this right now because I want to save this for Thursday. But I'll go over. You can follow my mouth with pronunciation right here. Okay, everybody, get ready. This is what you can do on your own and attach it to Google Classroom. You see how I opened up both pages of the book and I took one picture pointing the phone horizontal. You can do the same. All right, here we go. The first word, I'll just put a check mark by it. Okay, follow me. Addresses.
Addresses.
Very good. Say it again. Addresses.
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 Good. And and this is the usually the verb address, to give an address, not the noun with like a street address. That can be really, really confusing. So in the article, the context is to address, like let's address the problem, like to deal with, or to give a speech, like an address, not a physical address, like where you live. Constituents.
Constituents.
You know what? I'm gonna use my annotation. There we go. I'll circle it in pink. Address and constituents.
Constituents.
Very good. That's a tough one. So you take it slow. Constituents.
Constituents.
Very good. Very good. Envisioned.
Envision.
Good. Exceeded.
Exceeded.
Very good. Influx.
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 Very good. Institute.
Institute.
Reinvigorated.
Reinvigorated.
Restraints.
Restraint.
Drains.
Strains.
Good work. I'll do these last two again. Everybody follow me? Strains.
Strains.
Good. Urged.
Urge.
Excellent.
Urged.
Okay. All right, there we are. There we are. So take your time. You got tomorrow is your day off, but if you do have free time, you can do this tomorrow. Please just have this ready to go in the morning. We'll share our answers on Thursday. But the other activity we're going to do Thursday that I'm very excited to show you is this. Take a look at the Google Classroom stream. Now remember, the stream is what's public. I'm going to introduce this game to everybody. When you click here, it says City of Immigrants, Mission US. And it says, I'll blow this up for you. It's an educational video game. This is not like a game that you're gonna relax your brain with. This is like really hard concentration, a lot of reading, and a lot of decision making. So it's based on a true story about, if you want to Google this, go ahead, the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire. WAIST fire. So New York City, 1911, there was a big factory fire, and all the workers inside were low-paid immigrants, all women, paid very, very little money. The fire exits were closed because the owner of the factory didn't want them to steal any of the fabric. And numerous women died, not because they were trapped in the fire, but because they jumped from the top of the building. And if you've ever been to New York City, Washington Square Park, the original building is part of an NYU building overlooking Washington Square Park. So it's a true story about workers in the Triangle Shirtwaist factory. So that's a spoiler alert. I'm only telling you that because you got to get to the end of the game. So it starts off where a young Jewish immigrant comes from Russia during a period called the pogroms. This is when Jews were being expelled by the Romanov Empire in Russia. And this is before the Soviet Union, just about 5 years before, 4 years before. And when you log into the game, what you do right here, you could start by going up to the left-hand side. You create an account. I've already got an account, so I'm going to show you, just like creating an email. You create an account, totally free, really amazing resources. I'm going to show you what you do. You log in, and then there it is. So there's my, it's already got my login here. So I'm going to start the mission. And just for copyright period, for copyright, I'm going to stop recording. But actually, that's what I wanted everybody to understand. So I'm going to log out. And to create an account, you click create account. You give your information, blah, 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 blah. How did you hear about it? And you can say, my teacher told me. Ha, 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 ha. So this is a really fun resource. And we're going to do this most of Thursday. And I'm going to give you lots and lots of vocabulary to study. So when you log in, then you start to play. I'm going to stop recording now. I don't want to get in trouble. There we go.